I'm Maribel. This is Pete. Pete has been in the breakout rooms, really sharing the vision of how different organizations are doing digital transformation, where they're starting, where they're moving forward. But I thought we might get started, for those of you that don't know Pete and don't know DXC, with what is DXC? How did it come about? Why are you here?
Right on. Yeah, so DXC is a 7.5-month-old company clocking about $25 billion worth of revenue. So that's a pretty good story. We were born of the merger of the enterprise solutions part of HPE and CSC. So those two organizations came together, and we're now one of the largest technology independent managed services and digital transformation providers in the world. So the basic story is that we start with applications, whether they're old apps or new apps. We figure out how to get them to the cloud, whether we're modernizing them or replacing them with software as a service. We're looking at the infrastructure they run on, putting it in our cloud, your cloud, some other cloud, maybe a hybrid approach. We're talking about the devices and the infrastructure that, from an end user perspective, that accesses those apps, and then we wrap the whole thing in analytics and security and have a great mobile experience for the whole bit. So it's been working well so far. The stock price is up 42% since the merger closed, and things are going quite well.
Excellent. Okay, so that is what DXC is. Yep. And you talked a little bit how, we have evolved from what was a mobile show into enterprise transformation, right, which is about the whole stack. So you're actually working with the whole stack. And you're talking to a lot of different customers that are starting in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Could you perhaps share some of the challenges you're trying to help organizations move through?
Yeah. So I'll drill down now from broader DXC into my organization, which is workplace and mobility. So we're about $4.5 billion of that $25 billion. And the transformation we're seeing is it's really, people say they want to transform, and when you start getting under the covers, what they really mean is they want to suck a little bit less. They want to save.
All right, we have to stop there. Raise your hand if you want to suck less as digital transformation experts. Oh, come on! What are the rest of you doing? Yeah. You can't tell.
So I want
He's got 2 hands.
I want a little money taken out. I don't really change much, but just can you do it cheaper? And I just want to suck less. And what really we're trying to drive is true transformation and doing things very differently, and that means blowing up not just systems, but business processes and things that you have clung to as an organization. So really it's driving that courage, helping establish a vision, and then having a safe pair of hands who's been there and driven that change before. So that's the role we're playing.
Okay, so it sounds like it could be in many different areas. Can you give a couple of examples of things that you've worked with clients on that you would consider in the digital transformation domain?
Yeah, there's one that comes to mind. This is kind of an interesting one. This is one of the customers, one of the largest. Did somebody throw a phone at you?
No. Yeah, I'll be transforming that phone pretty soon.
The customer's one of the largest police and counterterrorism forces in the world. In a major metropolitan area. And their goal was, they wanted to reduce costs and be more efficient, but they wanted to change the way they did the business of policing. And we laid out a program with them that we've been executing on that really changed. If you look at the old way, officer would come in the morning, fill out some paperwork, have a morning briefing, go out on the streets, something bad would happen, they would come back into the station, they would fill out some more forms, have a cup of coffee, go back out, and just repeated that cycle. By enabling them with chest-mounted tablets, we were able, they still came in the morning, they grabbed their devices, they went out and were basically out in the field all day. When things happened, they could report them on their tablets and continue on. So the amount of time they were spending with the public and presumably also thwarting bad guys was much greater. At the end of the day, they would come back, turn in their tablets, they were wiped clean and re-provisioned the next day. So this one had all sorts of transformation from business process to mobility to a different way of provisioning devices. The concept of ownership was blurred. We have lockers and vending machines that are able to dispense these things. We had to get into things like ballistic testing tablets. And here's the answer, in case you ever have to do this. You don't want the steel back on the tablet. That deflects the bullet up into the neck or down into your femoral artery. That's bad. You want a plastic back on the tablet. Bullet goes through and through into your protective vest. So I just saved you. If you ever have that problem, you don't have to test it. I got that for you.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay. See, this is news that you can use in case you're worried that people don't like your IT support and they're going to come in with a weapon. You are good to go.
That's right. As long as you're wearing
Excellent.
a bulletproof vest.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's
All
one
right.
example.
Great. So, gosh, so many places we could go with this, right? So, we have talked a little bit in some of your breakouts. You've had people that are trying to do transformation that's been on the collaboration side, transformation that is on the devices side, and transformation that's on the services side. Those are kind of the three pillars. I know we had a lot of talk about machine learning, AI, and all this other stuff, but when people are looking at things like services, which is a big concern for all of us in the room, how do we service our customers better? What have been some of the things that you've been working with people on that you would consider transformation? Does it start slow? Has it been bigger initiatives?
Yeah, so I guess before I answer that question, I would have you all consider that if you are a CIO and you have the greatest app installed base and everything's perfectly integrated and humming along, and you have perfectly tuned and optimized infrastructure with great uptime, and your service desk experience sucks, then you're an idiot. Because that's the face of you as a CIO to your organization. And I can name Fortune 500 CIOs who lost their jobs because they had a lousy end user experience and people that just didn't like IT. So what do you do about that? How do you transform that? And I think the traditional approach of we're going to do more self-service and we're just going to drive people to the web and they'll figure it out on their own. That's a consumerized experience. Try calling 1-800-AMAZON and you get an empty dial tone. That'll be great. People will love that. And what we're finding is that's probably not the whole solution. So having choices of multiple channels, and then to your point, investing in the analytics and the agents on the machines. The machines are getting smarter and smarter, and they're able to talk to us now. They're able to tell us when they're having a problem. We don't have to wait for them to quit. So investing in these things are not terribly expensive, but they can have a big transformative approach from a service point of view. And then as you get from service out into the apps, out into the devices, these things just build on top of each other. If you can have a standardized, productized, well-integrated and automated approach, you're driving human error out of the chain, and you're going to have less problems on the back end. So long answer to a simple question. Sorry about that.
No. I think it's actually a really important answer. I think we've tried to take the human out of a lot of things, and I think some of the better customer experiences are figuring out when to interject a human to actually solve a problem, right? So
yeah, we see a whole bunch of buzz, and we have it too. We want a virtual agent. We want AI. And we've chosen to use Watson as our agent. We've done work with Cortana and others. And really, the hype factor, we're at the peak of the hype cycle. Everybody, God help you if you show up at a orals and you don't have your demo of your AI. In reality, the natural language recognition of these bots is pretty good for typed stuff. The voice recognition still isn't there. So really what you're talking about today is saying, okay, all the volume that you're getting in your chat channel, we can decrease that volume, and instead of a human at the other end, we can have Watson at the other end doing that work. How big is your chat volume? It's a couple hundred chats a month. Okay, well, great, we can take out half that. And the needle moved not at all. So it's when you get to the real natural language voice recognition and on the front end, and you have more automation and you can do more than just retrieve data on the back end, that's when you'll see it take off, but we're a couple of years away from that.
Thanks. That's actually some good context of where we are truly today. In your session, you mentioned a word that I don't often hear from services companies, but I thought was interesting. You talked about personas.
Yeah.
So tell me how personas fits into digital transformation, and what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so the brand name for our workplace offering in the market is My Work Style. And the idea is that it's a persona-based approach to managing the end user interaction. And I think what personas do, and we're talking about a handful or a couple handfuls of persona for a large organization. I think what it does is it makes things more repeatable and more streamlined. So you're able to group users into several buckets. You're able to define standard equipment, applications, access in advance, and then you can have approval flows on top of that for the outliers. I think what companies, and this really bogs down transformation in general, they're trying to consider every single possible use case. That one stuck way over there in the corner, well, this isn't going to work for that instance, and they get hung up on the corner cases, and they're missing the center of the room. Personas do a really good job of helping you get the center of the room and making it repeatable, less chances for a mistake, and then you can get to the corners through some of the add-ons and approvals and separate capabilities.
Excellent. Okay, so we've been talking about different types of services organizations for years, and within the service organization standpoint, I think they're experiencing their own digital transformation. So when you think as a new entity that's just been built, where do you see this going forward? Obviously, you had to come together as an organization, but now that you've done that and you're moving forward, what's the direction? What's going to be different about DXC in several years?
So first of all, we have an approach, we call it Customer Zero, and it's a core to our being where we try stuff out on ourselves first before we take it to market. So we have a fully rationalized software as a service applications. We are fully cloud-based. We're using unified communications and the things that we sell. So that's the first bit. When you look at DXC as a company, after this merger, we're 170,000 people globally. And we are proudly going to eliminate 25,000 of those people this year. And some of that is just good old-fashioned merger synergies. A lot of it is wrong people, wrong skills. We're going to hire about a little more than half of them back this year, and we're on pace to do that. So we're going to 170,000, eliminate 25,000, hire 13 back. Those are people with the right skills for a transformation mentality. So that's this year, great. Our CEO has talked about how within 5 years, we won't have 175,000 or 150, or we'll probably have about 400,000 workers. Now, they won't all be employees. It's this gig economy idea where we could have testers come in and out for a job, maybe for a day. We have people in roles we're spinning them up and then deprovisioning them. And from a business model, that's certainly a big shift. From an end user strategy, from a mobility strategy, that is a massive shift. Where the old days where it took 3 weeks to order a PC and have it show up at your desk, that does us no good for a 3-hour gig that somebody's doing. So to be able to do that quickly, repeatably, and most importantly, securely, that's a different mindset. And yes, we're doing it to ourselves, but I think our customers are going to see those kinds of changes as well.
Yeah, I actually think that's going to be, we've talked about this trend for quite some time now, but I think we finally are getting enough of the technology in place that if you get the right infrastructure, you can do it. So it'll be interesting. You're going through the retooling, but then also the concept of flexibility, agility of the workforce by being able to have people come and go per project.
And doing it a little bit better, and we're going to work harder, we're going to work faster. That is not the approach. This has to be blown up and done differently. You have to have a fully automated approach to spinning somebody up and turning them down in those sorts of intervals.
Well, let's see if there's a question from the audience. Does anybody have a question for Pete?
In the back?
There's one in the back.
I got one. Hang on.
Look at that hustle. Look at that hustle, jogging it out.
This is why Spencer is so thin. He has to run around at all these conferences with a microphone.
Thanks. One of the questions I had was just related to transformation overall. One thing we always seen is that transformation like this is really difficult because usually organizations don't know what they don't know, right? They're not thinking forward in terms of what's capable and what's possible and learning from different use cases across different industries and other types of things. How do you guys approach that?
Yeah, so part of it is just from scale, we see a lot. So we're able to instill confidence that this can be done. We rely a huge amount on consulting and advisory services to help shape that vision. And while if it is truly innovative, there may not be a roadmap, but there is a standardized, repeatable approach to how you build that roadmap. So we've invested a lot in the process to help you get there, and then it's if we've done it before, we can build some confidence that way, and otherwise it's the global reach and scale that helps build some of that confidence. But that's the thing, to be an innovator. You are sort of going first by definition. So a lot of our companies that we work with are federal government, aerospace and defense, banks, healthcare. They, and this is a sweeping statement, which is not fair, but they tend to be, either fast followers or even late followers. So the innovation in transportation or transformation may not happen in that core group.
Other question? Christine, in front.
Going.
And that was Eric Carlson with Propellix.
Can you talk a little bit about how this works with a company's security strategies, right? I mean, if you think about access management and people, you talk about people coming in and out, like how early does the security team have to kind of be brought into a transformation around the workplace?
Yeah, exactly. So a few pieces to this. How you're doing Active Directory, how you're doing identity and access management, you may need a different paradigm. Certainly it needs to be automated, and then the integration is the other piece. So DXC, I mean, we use Microsoft technology, we use VMware technology, we use ServiceNow technology. We're not inventing those things, we're tying them together and integrating them. And we're integrating them very tightly so there are no air gaps. And that's really important to what we're doing, because to try to bolt these things together on the fly with that kind of velocity is just not going to work. So having a different approach to how you address the individuals in and out, and having a different approach to the actual underlying platform and infrastructure is the key.
All right, so in our remaining minute or so, what advice would you give the audience? You've seen a lot of transformation as you've come together as a company. You've been talking to a lot of different companies. Is there a pitfall that they should avoid, or something specific you think people should be doing? So
I hit a couple. Go for the center of the room and plan for the corner cases later. Be bold and be brave. The other one is you got to work with your CISOs, the security folks. And CISOs, in my mind, fall into two categories. I would be a fine CISO, the kind that just says no to everything. It's the easiest job in the world. Well, we want to do this, no. Well, what if we didn't know? And that's a significant portion of the chief information security officer that I see. Being able to partner with your CISO and looking for areas to make a business decision on risk and risk profile and business value, I think that's a key. Because I see so many good ideas just get killed. Well, we can't do that, security won't let us. And that's the end of the conversation. And I think if you work with your business and work with your security folks, that you can find a bridge to where you need to go.
Excellent. Well, with that, Pete, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for the time and attention.
Look forward to talking to you all.